Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp.com, and I've been with them for a long time. BetterHelp is an online platform where we found that you can effectively communicate with your therapist. Now, you begin by filling out a questionnaire, and then you'll be matched with a therapist within a couple of days. And if that match isn't ideal for you, you can certainly make an adjustment there. Now, you're going to be encouraged to journal, and also they have the availability for group therapy on a wide array of topics, and I really like that. So as the need exists, go ahead and take the necessary steps to get the help that you need. And just know that BetterHelp has a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, so it indeed is a platform you can trust. There's a link below the video that will take you there. Common sense tells us that when an individual is deeply committed to their own patterns of narcissism, they can be very difficult to get along with. I mean, keep in mind, when you major on characteristics like selfishness and the need to control other individuals, when you have a lack of empathy towards others, when you are willing to exploit and manipulate people, when you have to be superior, when you create what we refer to as a false self, you're trying to present yourself as somebody that you're not, that's bad enough as it is. But then when a person has those kind of characteristics and then they add two other traits along with it, it can just create just all sorts of misery. And those two characteristics are ignorance and dominance. Now, when I say ignorance, I'm not talking about folks that have a really low IQ. I mean, in a academic sense, some folks just don't have as strong capabilities as others. But when I talk about ignorance, it's not just a lack of knowledge or information, but ignorant individuals have a profound lack of personal insight. They don't really understand themselves well. They don't understand life well. They don't have good awareness about you, about who they are. That's what I mean when I say ignorance. And then, of course, when I talk about dominance, I'm talking about the craving for control, which is central, of course, to narcissism, but kind of on steroids, if you will. They have a strong craving for power over pretty much anything else. Like I say, their sense of entitlement is just out the wazoo. They seek to create a hierarchy in their relationships. One of us has to be high and one of us has to be low. Let's see, which one of us is going to be in those positions, and I think you can kind of figure that one out. They have lots of condescension in their need for dominance. And when I say that, there's a haughtiness, a hubris, like, do you know who I am? And these individuals are very willing to punish people who don't go along with their bidding. So when you already have those narcissistic characteristics, you operate with this very strong lack of awareness, which is their ignorance, and then you add to it that they have to be dominant. That creates all sorts of possibilities for difficulties. Now, internally, what's going on inside that individual who tends to go in that direction? Well, first, we're going to find that this is an individual who has an astonishingly low capacity for good. I know that so many of us want to be optimistic and say, well, everybody has the ability for good, and at some level we do. But the narcissists, the narcissists with their ignorance and dominance, they perpetuate harm toward other individuals. They perpetuate destruction, and they have a long wake of relationships that have fallen apart. Internally, these individuals have a very low capacity for psychological insight. They don't have any need to empathize with you. It's like, why would I need to get to know you? And part of that is because they don't even care to get to know themselves. I know, speaking personally, back when I was a teenager in college and 20s and all the way up into my 70s now, I'm constantly wondering, how can I learn? How can I gain some insight and awareness? The ignorant, dominant narcissist thinks, I don't need that kind of stuff. You do, but I don't. Then we can say that internally with these individuals, they'll try to make you feel miserable, but in the process, they've had a long history of making themselves feel miserable. because they have so many arguments and agitations and failed relationships. But then, as part of that, rather than saying, I've got some soul searching to do, what they do is they just go into blame. That's a whole lot more easy, and there's a psychological laziness with these individuals, which is part of the ignorance. And to remain dominant, the problems can't be their fault. So they do a lot of victim blaming. You're the victim of their bad behavior, but somehow it's your fault. They have massive use of denial. They give a lot of projection. They see in you many of the problems they can't come to terms with on the inside of themselves. And then their defenses are off the charts. When you sit down and say, hey, we need to talk, they're incapable of doing it. There's almost a paranoia like, what are you doing to me when you say we need to talk? Now, that's internally. Externally, then, there are all sorts of other kinds of repercussions when you have this combination of ignorance and dominance. And that is, they have to have scapegoats. And so they're constantly looking for someone to blame, whether it's people they talk about in their past or whoever's in their presence. And then that being the case, they can be easily provoked then, and they'll go straight into attack mode. Because they're so thin-skinned, the smallest problem can create griping and moaning and groaning and complaining. They're incapable of learning from their mistakes. They have many double standards. For example, I can yell at you, but you better not yell at me. I can waste money, but you better not waste money. They're just not interested in you. And it doesn't even occur to them to try to know and blend and harmonize with you because, you see, I don't care. Again, that's part of their ignorance, but in doing so, to try to show understanding toward you, they'd have to let go of that need for power. It's like, no, power is everything as far as I'm concerned. And then on a much larger level, you can see that these people can have major destructive tendencies within institutions, within organizations, and they can bring down large numbers of individuals. People with this combination of ignorance and dominance would be willing to shove their own grandmother aside if it means that they can make a buck or have some sort of influence or gain some sort of advantage. On a much larger scale, these individuals tend to have strong, when I say strong, sociopathic tendencies. By that I mean no moral compass. Dishonesty is first nature to them. They have zero remorse whenever they harm someone. They're going to seek a favored status, but they're going to do so with no regard for those who help them along the way. It's like, there were people that were with me as I'm trying to gain my power and my dominance, but actually I'm the ultimate force here. They never have been your friend. You're only an asset. People are to be used. So when we take a look at that combination, ignorance, and that is they just don't know what they don't know, and then the need for dominance, I think we can say let's not underestimate the amount of energy they can drain from you. And what's sad is they're very willing to take their ignorance and their dominance and take down what they would refer to, as little people. For example, in family situations, they may ruin their children, and much to your chagrin, or in work settings, they have no regard towards lifting up their coworkers. They bring them down. If they're in business, they don't care about anything except the almighty dollar. And if they have to step on people to get whatever they want, they don't care. Sometimes in organizations, they can ruin organizations. I've known many people who have, in their ignorance and dominance, let's say they have ethical issues that bring down an organization, sexual proclivities that they use people and all, and it brings down organizations. They can't be trusted. And as a result, they try to make themselves, in their need for dominance, to be the one that everybody needs to look to, when in fact they're just disasters waiting to happen. And as a result, you're going to need to be very wary of them. And you might ask, well, what am I going to do as I engage with them? And as I spot this tendency of ignorance and dominance? And my number one thing is understand what kind of consequences you're going to need to establish. Now, they hate the concept of consequences, but by that I mean you may need to manage your own personal plans separately and have priorities and preferences that don't include them. It may be that if there are some circumstances that warrant calling in accountability partners or legal authorities, etc., do it and make sure that you're not bashful about saying, if you treat me dirty, I'm not just going to let you get away with it. And then over time, as you see them doing this with other individuals, just remind yourself, these are people who are master gaslighters. They want to make sure that everybody around them feels uneasy about their perceptions, and don't let yourself get caught up in that. Trust yourself and understand that when you see something that makes you feel uncomfortable, there's probably a pretty good reason for it. And live according to what you know is your wise and best interpretation of things. In addition, when you're with somebody who displays this combination of ignorance and dominance, be extremely careful in revealing who you are. And my natural bent is to say, well, let's be open with one another. But with some individuals who are users and exploiters, it's like, no, that's a formula for disaster. What they learn about you can and will be used against you. Instead, focus on your own personal self-care. There are safe people out there, and I'm hoping you can find who they are. And then when you have someone that is unsafe, like the person I'm talking about, make sure that that person stays far away from you. When you're dealing with something like this, knowledge is power. And again, I'm going to underscore, you're dealing with a master manipulator. And since this is somebody who has very low regard for you, then it's going to be your task to say within yourself, well, you don't have a regard for me, but I matter. And then I'm hoping you can live into that. Despite their unwillingness to join you, live into it. You matter. Now, I hope that videos like this can give you some awareness of what you might be dealing with. If you have not already hit that subscribe button, I would invite you to do so. Also, please know that, like I say, we'll keep more videos coming towards you. Also, you know that I've been sponsored for years by the people at BetterHelp.com, and there's a reason I do that. Obviously, I'm a therapist. I'm retired now, but I believe in that. If there's not anybody that you have in your immediate area that you can seek out, we have the people at BetterHelp.com, and it's such a good resource. It's been shown since the pandemic for being very effective, and it's a matter of you matching up with the therapist that you can work with. As the need is there, we have a link below that will take you to their website. Please, as it's warranted, get that help that you would need. Now, in addition, I encourage you to look at my website. It has a whole lot of information on there, a lot of resources. We have a lot of articles that I've written. I have 4 courses that I've put together. Each one has at least 25 teaching videos along with handouts and guided questions. It would be a lot of work for you, but it'd be really interesting because it walks you through the process of change. We have courses on anger, on boundaries, on healthy connections, on finding yourself despite the controllers. Also, I have my webinars, and like I mentioned, my articles and books, so plenty of resources. Narcissists, like I say, all by itself, it's bad enough. But then when they combine that ignorance and that need for dominance over you, that's like, oh boy, that's more than I signed up for. And I'm hoping you can decide, somebody needs to be in charge of taking care of me, and that's going to be myself. I'm hoping you can be committed to your own personal growth. And when that person comes along with these nefarious schemes, it's like, nope, I'm on to you. And in doing so, I'm hoping you can stay steady. And in the end, it can lead you towards a well-deserved sense of internal peace.